this week's ramblings and pickups. Well, this week I went to the great land up north, Canada, to Belleville, Ontario, which is on the shores of Lake Erie. Very picturesque town up there. Really neat place to visit. There was a really great restaurant, steak place downtown. But I can't remember the name of it now. I'm so bad. I'll have to find it. I'll put a link to it down in the show notes down below. But it was a great steak place, the best steak I've had in a long time. And it's evidently a very popular place in Belleville because the place was packed. I actually had a waiting list. So anyway, did that this week. Also was able to get the episode number 7 of the ColecoVisions podcast recorded this week, where we talked about Star Wars Arcade and Galaxian and the classic Coleco toy Alf. So that'll be posting here really soon. It's probably not going to be a very long episode. Oh well. And also was able to get a couple episodes of the Channel F Files recorded as well with my new co-host, Scott Schreiber. So that's another little side podcast I'm doing as a little project for the Fairchild Channel F. It's not real long. It's probably going to be no more than 30 minutes per episode. And I'm only planning about 30 episodes for it. But I love the Fairchild. I had one back in 1976 when they first came out. I had all 26 cartridges for it. Used to play the living daylights out of the thing. I had a few favorites like Pinball Challenge and Spitfire, Robot War, Sono Search. There's quite a few on there I used to like to play. But anyway, enough of that. I'm starting to ramble already. What else is going on this week? Besides working, not a whole lot. So I guess I got to get into the pickups. Well, the first stuff I picked up, these will be my Canadian pickups when I visit Chumley's in Belleville, Ontario. Really cool store. It's got videos in there, music, all kinds of stuff. Basically, one half of the store is music and records and things of that nature, and the other half of the store is video games. And they had quite a few good video games there. Atari 2600, some ColecoVision, Sega Saturn, Nintendo, and some pretty obscure consoles in there as well. I remember seeing up along the walls. It's definitely worth a visit. It's a pretty neat store. But here's what I picked up there at Chumley's. Well, at Chumley's and some pawn shops I hit. I picked up Pac-Man for my Sega Game Gear. And yes, the picture is not too good because I haven't put the capacitor kit yet in my Game Gear. I need to do that. So I have to hold the screen at an angle so you can see it on the video screen here. But I'll get the cap kit in there. I'll be doing a video of that as well so people can see what's involved in recapping a Sega Game Gear to get it back to working brand new again. Anyway, there's that. Next game I picked up in Canada is Jet Grind Radio. Pretty interesting game. You basically run around on rollerblades and you tag things, or what do they call that, graffiti. It's kind of fun. It's not too bad of a game. I never was interested in this game. I remember when it first came out. But now I've been collecting the games from my Sega Dreamcast, and I figure, what the hey, I'm going to pick this up, put it in my collection. I did try it for a while. As you can see up here, I tried it badly for a while. And it's actually quite a bit of fun. Of course, the funniest thing I find about these games is when the computer people are talking to you, how they're always moving around and talking to you as they move. It cracks me up. So it's got some great music to it also. So I'm pretty stoked to play this some more and try to get better at it and see how far I can get into it. So that's going to be added to my ColecoVision Dreamcast collection. I didn't pick up any ColecoVision games this week. That's terrible. Anyway, continue on. Next thing I picked up for my Sega Saturn is Galactic Attack. Really neat shoot 'em game, published by Acclaim, but it's actually made by Taito. Look at the intro screen, you'll see the little Taito symbol, Taito. So when I saw that, I was stoked because I love anything made by Taito, basically. And this is a good shoot 'em up game, vertical shoot 'em up, that basically you have two levels of play fields. You have the upper play field you're running around in, shooting ships and stuff. You got stuff down below you, farther away, moving around. Now, if you put your cursor over, you can shoot these bombs out, these missiles, and they go down into the play field and destroy the stuff down in the lower level. So you shoot stuff up high, shoot stuff down low. So it's kind of neat, gameplay wise. It's pretty hard to play, but a lot of great explosions. Some really cool effects that the Sega Saturn will do with this game. Really shows off what the Saturn can do. So it's a really cool game to have. And of course, I went to one of my favorite local stores, the Trade It store. And for my GameCube, I finally picked up Bounty Hunter, where you play the role of Jango Fett hunting for bounty across the universe. I haven't really played this game. I played a little bit for the video up here, basically fighting this big creature in this pit, and not being able to find a way to get out of the maze. Anyway, looking forward to playing this some more. I know it's not gotten some very good reviews, but I like anything Star Wars pretty much. Figure what the hey. Got it for a good price. It was basically $9, so figure it's worth that. Give it a try. Also, at my Trade It store, I found a Atari 20. I didn't find it this week actually. It was there last weekend, and I got enough Ataris laying around here. I just pretty much passed on it. But it was an Atari 2600 4-switch model that was shrink wrapped with 36 games. See the picture right there. And I saw that, and I picked it up, and I turned it over, looked at it, and I could see a few games, and I'm like, yeah, okay, combat, decathlon. There's a 1700 game in there. Nothing really jumped out at me, so I passed on it. Well, this weekend I decided, well, it's still there. I'm going to pick the crazy thing up and bring it home. It's $35. That's 36 games. Heck, if I sell every game for $1, it paid for itself for the console. One thing wrong with the console is that the difficulty switch, AB difficulty switch for the left-hand player is broken off, so I'll need to replace that on it. Otherwise, the console works fine. You see right here, we got the busted switch right there. It won't be a difficult repair. I get a new switch at Radio Shack, soldered on the board. Good as new, no problem. Now, the freaky thing about this console is it's got these discolorations on it, and it won't come off. And it actually looks like the plastic is actually discolored, like some kind of acetone or something like that got on there. But I've tried soap, I've tried rubbing alcohol, I've tried cleaner, I've tried Windex. Nothing comes off. So I got a spotted console. I got to figure out a way to get that blacking in. Otherwise, it works perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that thing. Went through the games pretty much as I expected. Are all pretty much a bunch of commons in there, except for one. That was a big surprise. I'll get to that here in a second. But I did add a couple games to my collection. I did find the 2600 Sprint Master in there. Don't have this in my collection yet. It's a neat little racing game. We can select what course you're going to race, and it's one or two players, or if you're going to crash or just bump off the walls. You can select like dirt road, paved road, ice road, that kind of stuff. The only complaint I got about this game is you got to use a joystick controller to steer your car. I think it would have been a much better game if they would have made use of the actual driving controllers, like they did for the other driving game they got, the IndyCar, Indy 500, whatever it is. This game would have been a lot better using the driving controllers, I think, instead of the joystick controllers. It's like playing Super Sprint in the arcade. The next thing I picked up for my collection was another very common game, but I didn't have it. Video pinball. A very rudimentary, basic pinball game for the Atari 2600. But I like video pinball games, and I didn't have this in my collection. I did have it at one time, but my cartridge quit working. So I was pretty happy to find another cartridge to put back in my collection. And then the surprise that was in this case of games that came with the Atari was one of these, a Crazy Climber. Needless to say, this made my day. It's probably the best find I've had in a long time. So it's a pretty good version of Crazy Climber, considering the limitations of the Atari 2600. Basically, you just got two movements you do: joystick up, joystick down, joystick up, joystick down. Would have been better if you had two joysticks, like the arcade game, but I think it'd be kind of hard to do with two Atari joysticks unless you had some kind of holder to put them in. So what they did, using one joystick, it works. The game is playable, and it's quite a bit of fun. So that was awesome to get a hold of that. And then I purchased off eBay something I needed for my podcast I'm doing, the Channel F files. Now, I did have one of these before, but all of us go through the madness every once in a while and we sell stuff off. And I sold my original one off and still regret it to this day that I sold it off. Mainly because I was running out of room. So I was selling stuff off because I basically was packed in my room. Anyway, I picked up another one. Now this is the one I had, the kind I had. I had the Model 1. This is the Model 2. Fairchild Channel F, System 2. Now this was the redesigned version of the Fairchild to compete with the Atari. This was released in 1978. Unfortunately, when they redesigned the console, they didn't do anything with the processor that works inside of this thing. So basically it's like the original console, just has a different wrapper. It's just unfortunate because the Atari had all the arcade ports and Fairchild didn't have a chance with that kind of situation going on. But it's still a neat console. I still like playing it. I play it a lot in emulation. But now that I got this, I'll start playing it on here now because I like the controllers. Pretty cool looking controllers. But anyway, like anything you buy off eBay, the description says one thing, but the console is a whole nother story. Basically, the description said, works perfectly, no problems, and granted, both joysticks, perfect, no problems at all, which was a weak link in the Fairchild because of the small wires and everything in there. Controllers work perfectly fine. Console, oh yeah, powers up perfectly fine. Yeah, no problem at all. Problem? The number one switch was always active, so as soon as you turn the console on, it would go right to the internal game hockey. And it would sit there and cycle between S on the screen and T. S and T. Because that's also the time button. Okay, alright. Also found that the number 2 button, which is the mode select button, was stuck down. It would not come back up. It was actually all the way down. It's like, oh, great. Alright. So I had to take it apart. And I found in the case of the number 1 button that the little spring contacts in here wasn't making good contact. So I thought the switch was active all the time. So I got that all cleaned up and fixed. The mode button, it was sticking down due to there was a sliver of plastic. There's this little guide in there. It has a little fork on it that the switch goes up and down on like this to guide it. And a sliver of plastic was in there that jammed it all the way down. So I got that trimmed out, cleaned up to get it to go up and down a lot easier now. Now the switch mechanism of the Fairchild is very, very unique. It's not like a normal switch. Normally you have a set of contacts like this. You push the switch, they make connection, open it up, and they go open again. In the case of the Fairchild, it has 2 metal posts sitting like this in there, and then there's a spring that goes up like so that sits against both posts. So the circuit is always closed all the time. When you push the button, you push the top part of the spring down, which moves away from the upper post, and that tells the Fairchild, oh, I see an active input here, so I need to do something. So if those don't make good contact, those switches, it'll do exactly what this thing does. It'll just keep going to that first game and cycling through constantly. The switch bank is very unique in these Fairchilds. But nice thing about them is they're fairly easy to repair. As a matter of fact, this entire console, the Fairchild itself, has a lot of parts that you can buy right off the shelf, and you can still get to this day. So they're fairly easy to repair, and they're not very complex at all. So it's a pretty heavy-duty little console. But anyway, I got this off eBay, had to fix it, got it working. It works fine now. I did get a couple games with it. I got video cart number 1, which has a tic-tac-toe, shooting gallery, doodle, and quadrodoodle. Yeah, back in the 70s, it didn't take much to entertain us. But it also came with another cartridge, a Video Blackjack, which is video cart number 3. Well, unfortunately, the Video Blackjack cartridge, which was one of my favorite games on the system, because I like playing blackjack, unfortunately, it didn't work. Well, I know why it didn't work. This is why it didn't work. Hear that rattle? Well, inside the cartridge, look at this picture right here. Inside the cartridge, there's these little black hockey puck looking things that actually sit over the top of the chips. Here's a picture of the chip. And what those are for is to keep any ambient light from hitting those chips. Because if any ambient light hits those chips, guess what happens to the program? Poof. Gone. And that's what happened to this cartridge. The little puck fell off, and the game went poof. So if you're collecting for the Fairchild Channel F, and you're at a flea market or whatever like that, and you find some games, pick them up. If they rattle, pass. Because I guarantee you they're probably not going to work. And there's no getting them back. You might, if you want cartridge shells, try to talk them down and get a cartridge shell if you want one of those. But otherwise, don't buy it. Good news is I have a multi-cart coming from a Atari Age member by the name of E5 Frog that lives over in Sweden. He's the home brewer that did the Pac-Man cart for the Fairchild Channel F. He actually called it video cart number 27, so it's actually an unofficial 27th cartridge for the Fairchild. And he did an awesome job considering the limitations of the Fairchild in doing Pac-Man on it. It's actually better than the Atari 2600 Pac-Man, which was a better machine. So I commend him for what he did using the Fairchild. This multi-cart has all 26 games on it, has some homebrew games on there, and some obscured games as well. So I'm really looking forward to getting this multi-cart. Mainly for doing the podcast, because I'll be covering every game per episode. It's only about a 30 episode podcast I'm planning on doing. I've only released 2. But another reason why I wanted the multi-cart is to take with me to Classic Gaming Expo in Las Vegas to have people try out the different games on the Fairchild, and I have to worry about finding all these different Fairchild games to put out there for people to play. So you come out to CGE, you probably get to see this console and actually get to play some of the games on there. Anyway, that is all the pickups for this week. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. Yeah, there's nothing laying around. Cool. Well, that's all the pickups for this week. Next week, I'll probably be doing some work locally in my local area. There's a few game stores I haven't hit in a while. I'll try to visit and see what I can find. I need to get back down to Save Point Video Games in Charlotte, because they got some really large collections that were traded in recently for Sega Saturn and some other consoles I'm interested in, and see what kind of games they got down there. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.